Thank you very much. I will now continue with what I call solidarity in crisis and theorizing parasitical forms of solidarity. In my research as a doctoral student at the University of Vienna, I'm concerned with the question what happens and how should we deal with the possibility of misappropriating solidaristic mechanisms. As we just heard, solidarity is usually something that we desire in a society to foster, as we mainly have positive connotations with that. And though I agree with that, I see the possibility to some extent that these mechanisms of solidarity that we just heard can be misappropriated to do something else instead of fostering social cohesion. So now we will look into that. Could I have the next slide, please? So yeah, solidarity, as I just said, is widely used and has also like a lot of different traditions. There's liberal social theory that that uses this concept to underpin their theory, but also Marxists and socialists politics use the term a lot, and even theological discourse in different religions uses the concept of solidarity to describe a lot of mechanisms in society. As we just heard, solidarity consists of people recognizing similarities with other people and deciding to help them by actually not only having sympathy with them, but by establishing an action, a concrete practice. And here, if we see this mechanism, there are two roles emerging. There's the role of people enacting the solidarity and of people receiving this form of solidarity. Political philosopher Sally Scholz, for example, called these two roles the solidary group who enacts these practices and the oppressed group who is on the receiving side of solidarity, as she mainly thought of solidarity as something that happens when there's a struggle against oppression or injustice. But as we just saw, this is one part of solidarity. Solidarity is an everyday action that goes beyond this. These categorization of enactor and receiver seem very rigid, but in fact, they are part of sort of daily. Sorry, I'm losing the word in English. Yes, Caesar, you want to jump in of a Aushandeln of a process of
negotiation.
Of negotiation. Thank you. And in this process of negotiation, the practice is the central element that is established to enact this form of solidarity, because the nature of this practice decides on who we see as the receiver and who is supposed to enact and what consists of this enactment. Yes, next slide, please. So as already mentioned by Barbara, there can be two problems that arise by this process of negotiation. First is the exclusion. There are a lot of forms of solidarity that can be very exclusive only to a certain group of people. We see this a lot in the context of nation states that limit access to healthcare to only their citizens. We have seen, as I'm illustrating here, even more oppressive forms of this solidarity. We have to acknowledge that there are some forms of exclusion that unproblematic because they do not concern actual basic needs. But in the moment where solidarity excludes from the fulfillment of basic needs, and might it just be social participation, this becomes very problematic. But I'm now not focusing on this. I'm focusing on what I call misappropriated solidarity. Can I have the next slide, please? So what do I call misappropriated solidarity? Or even with a more harsh word, parasitical solidarity, call a phenomenon where these mechanisms we just saw are used to engage people in enacting a certain practice, but on a closer look at this practice, it is not, it cannot fulfill the promised help to the people it is supposed to help. Can I have the next slide, please? So to illustrate that, I just showed you a picture of a wheelchair-friendly bench. And here we have a case of misappropriated solidarity because the people that are trying to establish this bench as a solidaristic practice with wheelchair-bound people, they try to mobilize this mechanism of solidarity that we see this vulnerability of people in a wheelchair and their need for social inclusion. Then this bench is proposed as a form of providing this inclusion, but it lacks, it cannot actually achieve their goal because to include wheelchair-bound people, we should listen to what they need. And if you ask wheelchair-bound people, they will tell you, as was the case with this picture I just showed you, that this is not their highest priority. I mean, it's a nice thought, but as a wheelchair-bound person, there can also, with this example of a bench, just sit in front of the people sitting on the bench. And what is happening here actually is a municipality that wants to tackle a wholly different problem, at least a problem in their mind, homelessness, are trying to create an environment that is not attractive for homeless people. So as people would not be very happy if, as a municipality, you openly state this goal, they try to hide this goal behind a solidaristic motivation to include wheelchair-bound people without actually tackling the problems of wheelchair-bound people, which lie usually in accessibility to these spaces with ramps and other infrastructure. And therefore, I would categorize this as a form of misappropriation of solidarity. Yeah, in my opinion, there are a lot of examples that you can find in the wild where this happens. The question we have now to ask is, why does this happen? And I would wish I would have an answer to that, but I don't. So I hope we will move closer to such an answer with this workshop. Thank you very much.